Time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catalfamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. I'd like to thank you for joining me. On today's show, we're talking COVID-19, and my guest today is Yavapai County Health Department Epidemiologist Stephen Everett. Mr. Everett, welcome on the program.
Well, thank you, Philip. It's good to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. We got a lot of questions regarding this case, regarding this pandemic, and you are definitely the guy to talk to. But let's start out with this. Let's start with your job in general. What is a daily routine for an epidemiologist during a pandemic?
During a pandemic, the very first thing I do when I come in is look and see what cases came in overnight. With that, I download the information, start sorting through the data, and report them out in the morning. So if anyone's been through our site at yavapai.us, we have the daily numbers. I get those out every single morning.
And where are you getting those numbers from specifically?
We have a state database that records all the cases, the different labs in the country, LabCorp, NorQuest, other labs. They are linked directly to the Arizona Department of Health Services database. So they put the labs in, they get reported, then we follow up. And once we get the numbers, we try to interview the people, identify what their symptoms are, who they have been in contact with, and then try to track it down and prevent people beyond that from getting COVID.
Has there been any collaborative effort with any other epidemiologists during this pandemic?
Oh, yes. So I talk regularly to epidemiologists at the state, at the surrounding counties. We're all working really hard to get this taken care of. We try to help each other as best we can. So it is a collaborative effort.
So was the state ready for this pandemic? I mean, it hit and it just kind of took off here in Arizona and throughout, obviously, the world. Was Arizona prepared for something like this?
It was prepared as best as you can prepare. I think it was Eisenhower that said, plans are useless, but planning is essential. Mm-hmm. I have a whole bookshelf of plans, but nothing ever seems to go the way that you want to. And, you can have the best plans, but if you don't have the resources, you don't have the people, and it makes it really difficult. So fortunately, we have a lot of people pitching in, a lot of great volunteers, and we're trying to hold our own on this.
Did you guys have any sort of plan that was similar to what we're seeing right now with COVID? I mean, it seems like an ever-changing disease. We're constantly hearing different things about it. What sort of diseases are similar to this that maybe gave you guys a good idea as to how to prepare and what to implement?
Yeah, probably the best one we have is for pandemic influenza. That's something we've been working on for over 10 years. We've had this plan. COVID's very similar to influenza. That's respiratory disease. It's distributed by droplets. With novel influenza, we don't have a vaccine for it. And COVID, we don't have a vaccine yet for it. So we have plans. We had plans already set, how to social distance, how to quarantine, how to isolate. So we're putting a lot of these plans in action, and pretty much it's going as we expected.
Okay. So back in February, you said that the death rate for COVID-19 is at 2%. Is that still the case now? Are we still at that 2%, or has it gone higher or lower?
For Yavapai County so far, the case fatality rate, which is the number of deaths divided by the number of positive labs, that is about 3.5%.
Okay.
But we also have we have a senior population. Half the population is 55 or older. So that will just artificially increase that number.
Okay. How reliable are the numbers that you see each day on the state website? Has there been, any sort of okay, well, we said that it was 94, but let me correct that. It was actually 95. Are they pretty consistent and pretty accurate when you get them?
Oh, no, it's always changing.
Okay.
It's always changing. Just yesterday, I had 60 deaths. Today I have 59. We lost a death, but the gentleman was actually still alive. So, which was probably a really good relief for him.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, my contact tracer picked up the phone, was expecting to talk to the next of kin. He answered, so she was very surprised.
You talk about that contact tracing. How accurate is that when you guys can really trace back to the beginning of where somebody got COVID to who they may have spread it out to?
We don't necessarily are able to track where they were exposed. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. Either they know specifically who gave it to them, or they have absolutely no idea where it came from. Mainly we're looking at the people that they came in contact with, put them in quarantine so we can stop the spread from them to someone else.
Yeah, because especially this disease, if I, gave it to somebody and I didn't know I had COVID, because we know that you can be asymptomatic and not even know you have COVID and spread it around. Actually, let's talk about that. How difficult is it to track that person down when they're asymptomatic, or track down that starting trace?
It's very difficult. Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult. If they don't go in for testing, we don't know. He doesn't know. We had a big outbreak at Mingus Mountain Academy a couple months ago with teen girls. We went and we found a positive. The whole group was tested, and it wound up that 3/4 of them were positive, and only a few actually had symptoms. Mm-hmm. So we have this huge group. No one knew they had symptoms, and it could easily just, in something like that where it's a confined group, it's great, but if they were out in the community, it can be really difficult.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking COVID-19 with Yavapai County Epidemiologist Stephen Everett. Countywide will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Do you need more closet space? Hi, I'm Tracy Shadley, owner of Organize A to Z. We provide professional custom design solutions to keep you and your space organized, which helps reduce your stress, increase your productivity, and allows you to take control of your belongings. We are proud to be locally owned and operated, specializing in custom closets, garages, offices, and pantries. Call me today for your free consultation. Organize your space, organize your life.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
With too many senior homeowners falling short in their retirement dreams, there may be great news for you. A reverse mortgage may be the answer. The flexibility it provides may help you with your retirement dreams, peace of mind, and quality of life in your retirement. For your in-home, no-obligation consultation, contact me at 928-225-7418. That's 928-225-7418. Or you can find me at Facebook at Jim Hostler, Reverse Mortgage Specialist.
Hi, this is Lori
and Melissa
from Sedona Soul Spaces. We are the premier source for all your interior design, decorating, and staging needs.
Every day people ask, why didn't I call you sooner?
Let us use our passion, creativity, and experience to make your life easier.
Don't make costly mistakes. Call us and we will help save you time and money.
We offer full-service interior design, custom furnishings,
complete home staging, turnkey vacation home packages.
Sedona Soul Spaces, creating extraordinary spaces that delight your soul.
I want to welcome you back here to Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. Today we're talking COVID-19, and my guest today is Yavapai County Health Department Epidemiologist Stephen Everett. In our first segment, we talked about, well, a lot of things. We talked about, was Arizona ready for the pandemic? We talked about the death rate, and now we're going to move a little bit more into the numbers. Another rumor that I've heard, Stephen, is that if you go, let's say I get tested in Flagstaff, and that's negative, and then I get tested again in Yavapai County, are those tests counted twice? Are we seeing people getting counted twice, or is that just one test for one person?
It's one test for one person. So if you're one person, you get multiple tests. All those tests will go into your medical record, and it won't be counted more than once.
Okay, so that will just be counted. Oh,
sometimes,
yeah.
Right. Sometimes it does. They do come in as duplicates. We do our best to deduplicate. There might be a few cases, just misspellings, names getting reversed, but we always try to limit that. So one person for one record.
So that would go the same for, like police officers and fire department personnel who get tested constantly because they're out in the field interacting with people. So they're still considered just one person or one test.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I got one here. My next question here is contract tracing something that can still be done with a widespread as COVID-19 is?
When it starts getting very widespread, it kind of loses its potency because it's out in the community. You can get it from pretty much anyone. But right now we're doing pretty well here in Yavapai County. We still think it's being effective. We do have one of the lowest rates in the state. I think because we have a senior population, they're much better at social distancing, wearing their masks than perhaps other areas where they're younger. They still have that feeling of invulnerability that young people have. So, so I think we're doing really well. Contact tracing, we seem to be doing really well at trying to keep the numbers down, and hopefully we'll be able to keep that down and just hope that our numbers will soon be decreasing.
Yeah, you do make a very good point. We do have a much, definitely here in Yavapai County, from what I've seen, is we do have a much older population as opposed to Maricopa County, where there are obviously more people, but also more younger people. As we know, this disease is affecting people relatively my age, that 20 to like 30 or 40 year that gap right there. That's where people are mostly getting infected. But let me ask you this: ICU beds. We constantly see some of our numbers go. There's 80% ICU bed capacity. There's 60%, 50%. Then it goes up to 90. It constantly bounces around. What about in the county? How many ICU beds do we have in the county, and where does that number specifically come from?
I don't know off the hand, but if you do go to our website, we do have that information on there. Hospital beds, the number will change when we had lower numbers and felt that it was more under control. The bed count actually went up because we started having elective surgeries.
Okay.
But the hospitals do adjust based on what they're seeing. If their beds in their COVID units start filling up, they'll open up other units to put into their COVID unit.
So
right now we've been doing well.
Okay. Have they had to turn anybody away? I mean, I obviously don't have this disease, but I know that if you have a pre-existing condition or you get it really badly, you need immediate attention. And has there been an instance where some people have had to get turned away? Again, I'm not sure how many ICU beds we have, but I know it's not in the 50s or 60s range. But have they had to kind of make decisions like that? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware. There was one weekend where there was a surge. The beds were limited. They were planning on something like that, but as far as I know, it never occurred. Kind of went right up to the line, but then the line receded.
Where are we at with the vaccine? I've heard of some things last week that we might be developing a vaccine. Where are we with that?
Yeah, we do have vaccines, but they're undergoing testing.
Okay.
And so it's really important to make sure that the vaccine, one, it's effective, two, it doesn't harm people, and three, it doesn't cause any other problems. If some of your older watchers may remember back in the 60s with thalidomide, it was supposed to be this wonder drug for women who have morning sickness, and it wound up causing defective babies. And that's something we want to avoid.
And we've gotten a lot of that. I mean, I remember there was a couple, I think, down in Phoenix who heard something about this drug or this chemical that they can put in their veins from like fish. It was like a fish cleaner, and it had the chemical in it.
Yes,
and misinformation has been very, very prominent with this disease, and I think it has to do a lot with just the unknowns of what's going on. How long it stays in the air, how long it stays on surfaces. How important really is it to get that truth out there about this disease, even with constantly changing information?
Yeah, information is constantly changing. And so scientists, it's not uncommon to say one thing one day, then the total opposite the next day. We base it all on the information we have. Data is often incomplete, so we have to make just decisions on what we have. And it's just part of science that oftentimes we're wrong. So there's a lot of people think conspiracies and situations like that. But the fact of the matter is that scientists don't want to die of this either. But we don't want to also do any harm to anyone as well. So we're doing the best we can. We're trying to give you the best information we can to the people. And if anyone's out there and said, "Oh, I'm 100% certain of this," I'd be very cautious listening to them.
Okay, I couldn't agree more. I know that there are a lot of instances where we've had certain officials and certain people saying that this type of drug may work, maybe this type of drug works, and people start to take it and it doesn't really help. I know at one point people were saying ibuprofen helped with COVID-19 and it didn't necessarily do anything or help at all. But I'll ask you this. A lot of people have the masks. How effective are the masks in preventing COVID-19?
The masks aren't there to protect you, really. It's to protect everyone else from you. What it does is it limits your breath. So if you cough, if you sneeze, the mask catches it and it doesn't go out into the general atmosphere. There's a great video online with Bill Nye the Science Guy where he puts on a mask and he's trying to blow out a candle and he can't. So, and that's what we're trying to do. If we can limit people from who are sick from spreading it, especially the asymptomatic people when they don't know it, then everything is much better.
So, like you mentioned, just trying to keep track of COVID-19 and trying to reduce that spread. We've got just a little over a minute here. How are you guys tracking this disease?
We track it through a state database, and all the cases get put in there. We call the cases. We talk to them regarding their symptoms, their illness course, get their contacts information. We call the contacts and we place them into quarantine, which is 14 days. And it's really important to do the full 14 days because that's the length of time that COVID can develop. Usually people pop up like 5-6 days, but some people can go all the way to 14. So we want to make sure that they don't go out and infect anyone else.
And the best thing to do as well is to get tested if you think you have COVID-19, just to really make sure you don't have it. Or do you have it?
Yes. Yes, and it's especially important you get the right COVID test. You want the test that is the nasal swab. That tests for the virus itself. The blood test is testing for antibodies. Antibodies don't show up till later in the disease or sometimes after you're already over the disease. So if you think you have COVID, make sure you get a nasal swab. If you're curious to find out if you had COVID in the past, you get the blood test.
When we come back, we're going to talk about how long COVID may be sticking around. Don't go anywhere. Countywide will be right back.
From inspiration to installation.
If you need help with your decorating plan, call the pros at the Picture Window. We are your #1 source for top quality blinds, shades, shutters, and flooring. We've been in business here for 41 years, and our delightful sales staff has decades of experience. We're the locally awarded Best of the Best in both Sedona and the Verde Valley.
Don't pass up a free estimate on your project. Call the Picture Window now.
Paul Stanley here with Stanley Steel Structures. We offer shade structures that provide style, value, and performance. Our Equinox louvered roof opens and closes to give you the ultimate patio experience. We also offer Alumawood shade covers that looks like wood but lasts like steel and never needs painting or maintenance. Visit us at StanleySteelStructures.com. Contact us today and be covered tomorrow. Stanley Steel Structures. Let us add some space to your place.
The EPA says C&B Construction ranks in the top 1% nationally. C&B Construction invites you to see what energy efficiency and indoor air quality can be. We have won another Department of Energy Innovation Award, and C&B Construction is the only contractor in the country to win 6 consecutive EPA Indoor Air Plus awards. Experience our zero-energy, move-in ready homes at Crossroads at Mingus.
C&B Construction, locally respected, nationally recognized. Find out more at C&B homes.com.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. On today's show, we're talking COVID-19. My guest today is Yavapai County Health Department epidemiologist Stephen Everett. We have talked about a lot, Stephen. We talked about your routine as an epidemiologist. We talked about the death rate. We talked about the transmission of the disease. We talked about a lot, but now let's talk about how long is this disease going to be sticking around? How long do you think it's going to go for?
I don't know. That's been pretty much my answer throughout this whole thing, and I've been right so far. It's hard to say. It depends on a lot of different things. It's related to SARS, which some may remember several years ago. It was in China. It jumped over into Canada, and then it totally disappeared. It's also related to Middle Eastern respiratory symptom. Middle East. I'm having problems with my words today. Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, which is only found in the Arabian Peninsula. It stays there. It doesn't really go that far. And then there's also coronavirus that cause nothing but the common cold, and they've been around for a long time. The problem with COVID, and actually by flu as well, is that they're RNA viruses. So people may know DNA. RNA is a single strand of genetic code, and it mutates very quickly. So you can have several strains out there, and they're constantly changing. If COVID becomes something like influenza, then we could see it go on for forever, really, and it just mutates slightly. So we have to get shots regularly. Or if they're able to develop a vaccine which attacks the right proteins, then we can develop one, and it would be something more effective, as effective, say, as a measles virus shot, where it's not going to change, and it'll give either lifetime protection or you'll need boosters every few years or so. But we really don't know yet. Probably won't know until the vaccines come out and people are vaccinated and we start seeing what happens in the general population.
Yeah, it is definitely a waiting period, and it's definitely been a waiting period for a lot of things regarding this disease, especially the vaccine. But like you mentioned, we are making progress on it, which is fantastic. So hopefully we'll get soon to calling this pandemic over. And speaking of which, what does it take to call a pandemic over?
It would have to go under control. It's kind of a difficult concept. I mean, you might say that influenza is a pandemic because it's worldwide, but it's expected. It's a seasonal virus. We see it in the northern hemisphere in the winter, the southern hemisphere in the summer. It would be considered what's called endemic. There's a certain level that's expected, and it's just naturally occurring. You can't really do anything about it other than get vaccinated. So as soon as it becomes either part of the regular landscape of things, or if we do get it under control, we're able to wipe it out with vaccine or at least limit it severely, it's probably going to stay a pandemic for a little while yet.
Okay. Well, Stephen, Stephen, I want to thank you very much for coming on, and definitely wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, get tested if you think you have this disease or you've been exposed to it. And that's it. I want to thank you very much for watching and listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you again next time.
Okay, thank you.